Darkness rises, and light to meet it.
The Force, it calls to you. Who are you?
Hey there, my fellow Jedi and Padawan friends. This is Jason with Star Wars and Philosophy, and today we're going to talk about Poe Dameron. And we're going to talk about it as Poe being a metaphor, his relationship with Vice Admiral Holdo being a metaphor for all of the backlash and crazy stuff that's been going on since The Last Jedi came out. And so, before we get into that, I just wanted to show off my newest addition to my backstage crew here. We got like goblet version Kylo Ren, and so then also just wanted to say we're going to be using the art of The Last Jedi as well as the visual dictionary for The Last Jedi. That's where I'm getting my stuff from. Also wanted to give a shout out to my last 5 subscribers on the channel: John Paisant, Rick Kulo, B. Lance, Paula Rowan, and Ellen Roberts. And so if you did not hear your name and you've recently subscribed to this channel, please show and publish your subscriptions, because that is the list I'm going to be going off of for those who want to be entered into the drawing for a $20 gift card of your choice. And that's going to happen every time basically I get paid by YouTube. I give some of it back. And so every time I get a check from YouTube, I'm going to announce a winner of that gift card. And if you want to be on that list, you need to make sure you subscribe, and you're going to want to make sure that you publish your subscription list. And also you have to share this video or one of my other videos in which I've announced this contest, and then you got to stay tuned to the channel to know if you won, right?
BB-8, punch it! It's now or never!
Ben! You must have 1,000 questions.
Where's Rey?
Permission to jump in her next wing and blow something up?
Permission granted.
What do you see? We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
So what exactly do I mean by saying that Poe's relationship with Holdo in the movie is a metaphor for the backlash against The Last Jedi by the critics of the movie? And so I just want to break this down in terms of Poe's character. Now, the overarching message in The Last Jedi seems to be connected with Yoda's statement to Luke about failure being our greatest teacher, our greatest thing to pass on to future generations. And every single character in The Last Jedi seems to go along this lesson of failure into becoming something better. And for Poe, it's learning how to be a follower before you become a leader. Okay, and that's a very important part of understanding this. So it starts out with Poe's defiance of Leia, and do the ends justify the means? So you can look at it from the standpoint of saying, just like Poe did when he got back to Leia, she says, at what cost? And he says, hey, when you start out a mission, you complete the mission. That's just the way it is. And Leia was trying to get him to understand something that Rose actually says later. We're not going to win by killing what we hate. We're going to win by saving what we love. And Holdo actually becomes a great model for that. Leia becomes a great model for that in Poe's life, in his journey in becoming the leader of the resistance that he should be. So you can look at it from the standpoint that says, hey, if they wouldn't have taken out that dreadnought at the beginning of the movie would have been a lot shorter, because they would have just blown up all their ships very quickly. They never would have gotten to Crate, and so the resistance would have been gone. Rey still would have been left, and Luke would still been left, but it would have been a very different movie had they not taken out that dreadnought. So you can look at it and say, well, they had to do it, and so Poe is right. But that would be saying the ends justify the means. And Poe seems to really struggle with, because he's such a great, gifted pilot, and I'm going to make another video about that, but he doesn't seem to really care about how many lives were lost in taking out that dreadnought, how much he decimated the numbers of the resistance, and then further down the line, decreasing their chances that they would be able to win long term. You might win the battle, but you might end the war or lose the war long term. So second thing then is, Poe gets demoted because of his actions. And that was Leia's way of teaching him, like, this isn't how we're going to win. You shouldn't defy my orders. But yet then we have, after Leia is hurt and she's no longer able to be in command, then Holdo, who happens to be the highest ranking official that's left, she just transfers ships. So she's new to that crew, but she's the natural choice as the leader of the resistance. And the visual dictionary actually says that Poe doesn't want, he's actually relieved when he's not named as the one who is in command. But here's the thing. Poe's actions don't really support that view because he's not prepared to be a good follower. And so that's emphasized and embodied in his relationship with Holdo, because he immediately goes and challenges her and says, what is the plan? He's demanding that she tell him the plan. And she basically looks at him, says, didn't you just get demoted? In the position you were, I still wouldn't have to tell you my plan, but you've just been demoted, so there's no way I'm sharing my plan with you. You don't need to know this. Get back on your post and do your job. In other words, be a follower, Poe, and trust me. And in doing so, you're trusting Leia, that woman that you respect and admire so much, okay, the leader of the resistance. In trusting me, you're trusting her. And that right there, that interaction and how Poe demanded the answers is what I'm seeing in The Last Jedi Backlash. A lot of people seem to be upset because the movie didn't meet their expectations in one character or another, in one way or another. So whether it be with Luke, whether it be with Snoke, whether it would be with Rey, and all of the questions that were surrounding all of those characters. Who are they? What are they now? All of these things. And so the critics have basically said, or, the Knights of Ren, none of those things were really resolved or answered. People were really unhappy with how they handled Luke and Snoke in particular. And so here's some things that I've seen happen since then. There's some who have been demanding that Disney and Lucasfilm remove The Last Jedi from the Star Wars canon and timeline. Okay, that's a pretty extreme thing. They've poured in all of this money into this movie. It's actually doing fairly well at the box office. Okay, it is what they wanted it to be, and yet the fans are saying, we don't like it, so you need to remove it from the Star Wars canon. Okay, some have said you need to cancel Rian Johnson's trilogy. Some have actually started rewriting The Last Jedi. And I don't know if you've seen this. There's YouTubers who are actually like rewriting and making videos about, here's my script for The Last Jedi. And so there's all of that going on. There's bashing Disney and Lucasfilm. There's the demanding of answers. Like, you better put out a Snoke book. You better make a movie about the Knights of Ren. You better answer these questions that we have. And I kind of see all of that is really unfair. And I see it as very much what Poe was doing to Holdo. Now, my question is, was Poe's actions insubordination? Do you see it that way? And what I've seen is there's a huge split between Star Wars fans who actually occupy positions of leadership. And Alex on Star Wars Explained also said this, that he's talked to his military friends, and they were really upset with how insubordinate Poe was. And yet there's those who are in positions of leadership who have seen the danger of this personality type and what they do to an organization, the people who can't be a good follower but demand to be a leader, even though they would say, I don't want to be the leader, right? That's exactly where Poe is at. And yet some people just are demanding and saying, like, Holdo should have told Poe the answer. She should have told him her plans. If she would have told him her plans, then he wouldn't have had to do this. Here's the thing. He didn't have to do that. There was nothing requiring him to send Finn and Rose off to Canobite. Nothing. He should have gone to his post, done what he was told, and trusted that Leia put the right person in the position, and that Holdo had a good plan and that it was going to work. But he refused. And so I think that is gross insubordination, and that's exactly what I see with the critics of The Last Jedi and all the backlash that's been going on here. And so let's just talk about the repercussion of Poe's insubordination. So Finn and Rose go to Canobite, and I think it's ironic that that was like one of the most hated parts of the movie by these critics. The very types of actions that they're doing that are just like Poe's actions caused the part of the movie that they seem to hate the most. I think that's crazy ironic. Okay, so DJ betrays them because they go to Canobite. And if DJ wouldn't have betrayed them, then, after DJ betrays them, then more of the resistance gets cut down and dies. So the end result of Poe's actions was even more of the resistance getting decimated on his way. And that's why that scene where he's pressed up against the glass as he's watching other ships get blown up on the way to Crate, in the Art of the Last Jedi, it actually portrays that as him in that moment losing everything. Okay, because his plan, which is a plan insubordination to Holdo's plan, which is really Leia's plan, then he watches as that plan fails and blows up literally in his face. Okay, and so the repercussions I'm seeing of the Last Jedi Backlash is it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's the thing that they're saying, like, we want more Star Wars, we want better Star Wars, but they're really saying we want our Star Wars. We want it to be the way that we want it to be. And it didn't meet our expectations, so we're going to kill it. That's basically what I'm seeing happen, is self-fulfilling prophecy, and them pointing to, like, second week numbers dropped way more than the first week, but they're not mentioning that the first week kind of like broke records in terms of that. They're not wanting to acknowledge that the critics seem to really love this and highly acclaim this. And then what will it mean long term? If the people who claim to be Star Wars fans keep doing stuff to self-destruct Star Wars, then we're just not going to get Star Wars in the future. You have to keep in mind that if it weren't for Disney purchasing Lucasfilm back in 2012, then we wouldn't have Star Wars right now. And so my advice is, if you don't like The Last Jedi, then just leave it alone, okay? Very few people that I know loved the Attack of the Clones. It's probably like the least watched Star Wars movie that's out there now. Okay, and the prequels in general kind of have like this reputation of being a lower class than the original trilogy. And we can talk all day about where does each movie rank, but here's the bottom line. It's like after the initial release and after it comes on DVD and we start we're already moving towards the Han Solo movie. We're already moving towards the next thing. If you don't like this particular thing, move on. Okay, just go with the flow. And if you reach a point in which you can't support what Disney's doing with Star Wars and you just have to cut ties and you have to say, you know what? I'm done with it. I have the original trilogy still. I have the prequels if you like those. I have these things. I have Clone Wars. I have Rebels. I have these books and novelizations. And I'm just going to go off and I'm going to enjoy those for the rest of my life. That's a valid thing. But don't be a Poe. Don't be so insubordinate and cause self-destructive things that are going to end up with us not even having a chance to have more Star Wars that we love. And Rian Johnson's response, I think, is a valid one, in which he basically just said, we knew that we had to take some risk. We had to make some bold choices if Star Wars is ever going to get past just being the story of the Skywalkers. Okay, and so he said, we knew going in, we were going to make some people upset. There's going to be some things in this movie that some people aren't going to like. But here's the reality of what he's saying, is that had they, like say with Snoke, if they would have validated somebody's theory about who Snoke is, then everybody who had that theory would have been happy. But everybody who didn't have that theory wouldn't be happy. If they would have taken the route of having Luke be the Luke of the Legends canon, then some people would have been happy and some people would have not been happy. If they would have done the Reylo thing, then some people would be happy and some people would not be happy. And that's what Rian Johnson, he's just, as a leader myself, I know that that is absolutely true. The Poes in this world, the ones who are going to lash out and speak out, they're going to do it. Now, I just want to talk in closing about Rotten Tomatoes because everybody keeps on citing the Rotten Tomatoes numbers. What you need to know about Rotten Tomatoes is that the only way that feedback goes on to Rotten Tomatoes is if people physically go onto the Rotten Tomatoes website and then they fill out a survey. Let me ask you this. If you are satisfied as a customer, not like the above and beyond, just blew your mind kind of satisfied, but if you're just satisfied, do you go online and leave feedback about that stuff? Okay, some people do. Most people don't. Most of the time, when you're driven to do something like that, it's because you don't like the movie. You don't like the product. You don't like the service. Somebody did you wrong. Okay, so it's not surprising on a site like that what you're going to hear from is mostly the critics. Okay, now notice the actual professional critics, they rated it really high. But there's other services, and I forget the name of them right now, but there's other services that actually go choose scientific method, you choose randomly a certain amount of theaters, and then they grab the first 50 people out of the theater, they get their reactions right straight out of the theater. And you know what those methods are saying is that audiences liked The Last Jedi. The other thing you need to know about Rotten Tomatoes, and I know there's people who swear this isn't true, but you can create a bot to just keep going on to Rotten Tomatoes and, given negative reviews. And you can do that if you really wanted to take something down, which when I talked about the kind of things that these people are doing, it's very much in character. Okay, my whole point in this is all unnecessary. If you don't like something, move on. You don't need to feel like you need to put that thumbs down, button on YouTube. In fact, I would say the opposite. One of the habits that I've gotten into on YouTube is that if I start playing a video, I immediately click that thumbs up button. And the reason is because I'm a creator myself. I know that that person took time to create that material. So even if I just absolutely fundamentally disagree with what that person is saying, or I just hated the video, I still give a thumbs up. Because if their channel is monetized, it gives them a chance to get some support. Because I know personally how much feedback and likes and subscriptions it takes to actually make any money on YouTube. Okay, and these people are taking time, and I feel like I'm taking in what they've put out, so I need to give them credit. And it doesn't cost me anything. And so that's just a habit I've gotten into. And stuff like this, honestly, makes me want to more go onto those sites when I've received service and just fill out their survey. It doesn't take a whole lot of time. Fill out the survey, let them know, hey, you guys did a great job, and it just makes somebody's day. That's the kind of society we should be creating. That's the kind of Star Wars community we should be creating, is validating, encouraging, and I like what Urban Acolyte said about this whole thing. He said, you know, Claudia Gray, who wrote some of the novels for Star Wars, you know how she started? She started writing Star Wars fiction, fan fiction. And then eventually she got so popular and her skills got so refined, Lucasfilm actually contacted her and say, how would you like to write for us? And so that's another recommendation I would say to you. If you don't like The Last Jedi, if you don't like the direction that Disney is going with in Lucasfilm with Star Wars, then what you should do, if you have the skills, and maybe this is where, you know, people writing their own scripts and putting them out there, maybe this isn't a bad thing, because that's maybe a productive thing, saying, hey, I'm just going to put out my version. I'm going to say, here's my thoughts. Here's how you can make it better. I'm not going to be nasty about it. I'm not going to be hateful and spiteful about it. I'm just going to say, hey, this is what I have to contribute. And maybe you get Lucasfilm's attention. Maybe you can be the better tomorrow of Star Wars. And so until next time, and leave your comments down below. I want to know what you think about all this. And until next time, may his peace, may his force be with you.
Fulfill your destiny.
Please like, subscribe, and share this video with others and this channel with others.